If you're a Ninja Turtles fan, then you're in for some turtle power with these 7 bodacious behind the scenes facts about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze. When the sequel went into production, the creators Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird and the movie's producers clashed over the movie's tone. Eastman and Laird wanted the sequel to have a darker tone like the first film, but after the backlash over the first movie's violence, the producers required a compromise to make the sequel more lighthearted like the cartoon. So, the fight scenes in Secret of the Ooze are more comical and one-sided, as we watch the turtles crack jokes the whole time while barely taking a hit. The compromise is also the reason why, aside from Donatello's bow, the turtles don't use their weapons to fight, and instead opting to use hand-to-hand combat or props like yo-yos and sausage links. The turtles' weapons weren't the only things missing in action in the movie, because several famous characters and actors were gone too. Corey Feldman, who voiced Donatello in the first movie, was replaced for the sequel because of substance abuse issues that tainted his reputation with younger audiences. Casey Jones also didn't return due to complaints over his scary-looking mask and violent use of sporting equipment, so Casey was swapped out with the more kid-friendly Keno. Not only was Casey Jones missing, but so was the original April O'Neil. As the story goes, Judith Hoag had complained to the producers while filming the first movie about its long shooting schedule and violence, so Hoag wasn't asked to come back because she was considered too difficult to work with, and the soap opera star Paige Turco was put in as her replacement. Another disappointing omission from the sequel was the absence of Shredder's goons Bebop and Rocksteady. They were originally in the plans for the sequel, but Eastman and Laird ultimately said no, because they wanted to avoid using any goofy characters from the cartoon. So that's why we got the less goofy but equally childish Tokka and Rahzar instead.
Mama? Oh, Mama!
But even though they felt like Bebop and Rocksteady imposters, Tokka and Rahzar have gained some popularity over the years, and there actually is more to them than meets the eye, because you may not have known that their voices were brought to life by the original Megatron voice actor, Frank Welker. A character that was in the sequel that almost didn't make the cut was the Shredder. In the early stages of the film production, Eastman and Laird only wanted Shredder's mangled helmet to appear to set up his possible return in a third movie. But for Secret of the Ooze, the creators wanted a new villain from the comics to be featured instead. And the one they had in mind was Baxter Stockman and his army of Mousers. But the idea was nixed over concerns about how to create believable live-action robots for the action scenes. So Shredder became the main villain, and Stockman was changed into the scientist with all the right moves, Professor Perry.
Fantastic.
Professor Perry may have turned out to be an ally to the Turtles instead of their enemy, but in the original script, a pretty freakish plot twist was going to end the movie, to reveal Perry's true identity as an alien. In the comics, the company that's linked to the Turtles' origin is also connected to alien life forms known as Utroms, and according to Peter Laird, just before the credits were going to roll, Professor Perry was going to lift up his shirt to reveal the stomach-dwelling Utrom inside. But aside from probably scarring children forever with that image, the producers eventually scrapped the idea, because they didn't want fans to confuse Perry's Utrom with Krang from the cartoon. If you're a longtime fan of the movie, then you already know Vanilla Ice made a cameo by performing the best early 90s guilty pleasure song, Ninja Rap, which as a bonus fact the rapper said he wrote in just 30 minutes. But aside from Vanilla Ice, you can also spot cameo appearances of Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Donatello's costume actors outside their shells. Sorry, Raph, I guess your actor had to stay on the sidelines.
All the good ones, Andy, no.
Michelin Sisti, who was inside Michelangelo's costume, was the Soho man who talks to April in front of her apartment. Leif Tilden, who wore Donatello's costume, plays Foot Soldier number 3 at the junkyard. And Mark Casso, who wore Leonardo's costume, was the newsroom staff who tells April she has a phone call. And while we're here, the news manager standing next to Casso is the director Michael Pressman, who also had his parents make a cameo, as the old couple calling a cab while Tokka and Rahzar run amok in the city.
Let them get their own cab.
Remember the creepy mouth monster from the first movie? Well, apparently so did the filmmakers, and they wanted to make sure the actors' faces were never seen like that again. So for the sequel, the eye slits of the turtles' heads were sewn shut, which meant the actors were blind while filming every scene. Filming each shot of every scene required a lot of trial and error in order for the blind actors to make their performance look natural. To do this, the actors started off by rehearsing each shot with their turtle heads off to get their bearings. Then they would rehearse it again with their heads on. To help with the blindness, each turtle head had radio communication built inside it, so the puppeteers could feed the actors directions in case they missed their marks. Then, after a couple run-throughs with radio assistance, they'd film the shot once, take their heads off so they could review the footage, then put the heads back on to film it with full energy. All in all, this process reportedly took about 30 takes per shot to film all the turtle scenes in the movie. Click a video on the screen for more facts about other bodacious movies, and sometimes blind turtle actors, right here on Fun Fact Films.